Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over the water to Denmark once again, and we're going to quite an interesting brewery in fact. So we're going to go to Sjaelland, the same island that Copenhagen is on, but we're going to the south of that island to a little place called Gavnø. And this brewery is quite interesting because it's the only brewery in Denmark that I know of that's actually attached to a castle. So we're going to Slotsbryggeriet Gavnø, literally Castle Brewery Gavnø, and we're going to have a taste of one of their organic beers, and this one is the stout beer, so it should be a really quite interesting review for us today. I will apologise in advance, because as I always do with my Danish reviews, because I'm not very good at pronouncing the Danish words, so I do apologise in advance for that if any of the pronunciations are wrong. But as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery and the castle in this case, but if you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual website links are in the video description below. The brewery website, the link to my future reviews that I'll do from Slotsbryggeriet Gavnø, and also the Facebook profile for the channel. Please like it, and the Untappd profile as well, and feel free to add me as a friend on there. Always interesting to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and to my Danish viewers, please let me know some other Danish beers and breweries that you'd like me to have a look at. I live in Lund in Sweden, so it's quite easy to get across to Denmark and get a hold of some of these beers that you want me to have a look at. But anyway, to tell you about the brewery itself, as I told you, Slotsbryggeriet Gavnø is located at Gavnø Castle, which is near the town of Navsted on Sjaelland. You're talking about an hour or so to the southwest of Copenhagen, or Copenhagen as they call it in Danish. But Gavnø has a long history as a fortress, and this goes back to the 13th century. But by the 15th century it had lost much of its strategic importance, and the land was then purchased by Queen Margaret I, who was at that time was actually a queen of a united Denmark, Norway and Sweden, so a kind of Nordic empire if you like. But the old fortress was torn down to create a Dominican priory for nuns, and this was known as I think it was the St. Agnes's Abbot or something like that. But they were a mendicant order, and so essentially they relied on the charity of the community. But Denmark became Lutheran under King Christian III, and at this time all religious buildings were claimed by the crown. But the priory was eventually turned over to Hans Lindenov by King Frederick II in 1583, and it was then converted into an estate. But the church that was associated with St. Agnes actually became a private chapel, and it was embellished by Lady Helle Rosenkrantz as well around the same time. But the castle as it is today began its life under Count Otto Tot in 1737, but he was a massive lover of books, and so he built a huge library, and upon his death he actually donated all the books to the Royal Library in Copenhagen. But later descendants of his also built an English garden in around 1850. But in 1960 the whole estate was turned into a charitable foundation to conserve the church, the priory and also the gardens, and apparently the tulip display in the English garden is world famous. However, the Reed's Thought family are still in residence. A bit of a difficult name to pronounce for a Scotsman actually, but the Reed's Thought family are still in residence at the Gavnø estate. But the brewery is based at Gavnø Castle, as I told you, and it was established by Baroness Reed's Thought, who wanted to create a bar and a restaurant on the estate, basically for people to visit or to enjoy food and things as they visited the estate on their tourism. But the brewery is housed in one of the old farm buildings in the castle grounds, and this building dates back to the 1800s, and the current brewmaster is Morgensdam, who apparently is also well trained in distilling whiskey. So it sounds like a really quite interesting beer for us to have a look at. Really looking forward to this one. But they also offer tastings of beer, so if you go and visit them, they were about 150 crowns per person if you went to visit them. And if you're in a bigger party, obviously you get that for less. But there's a good range of beers from these guys too. In the regular range, they've got the Nostradamus Pilsner, the India Pale Ale, Fedol, which is a wheat beer, Rugol, which is a rye beer, and they've also got a stout beer too. Those ones have got pictures of people on the labels, but then in their organic series, all of the labels in the organic series are similar to this one, but they've got Klosterbrygg, which is Castle Brew basically, the Pilsner, the Pale Ale, this guy which is the stout, the New Nordisk, which I think that was a specialty Nordish beer, and they also have a wheat beer as well, Fedol, and they've also got two seasonals as well, which is Påskebrygg, which I think is a sort of Easter brew, and they've also got Julebryg as well, which is their Christmas beer. So there's a good range of beers for you to have a look at, and as I say, check out the brewery website and you will get an idea of all the different beers you can get from Slotsbryggeriet Gavnø. So without further ado then, let's get on to the tasting of this beer. This one is a 5.8% organic stout, so I'll just let you have a little quick look at the artwork on this one. This is the Castle the castle or estate symbol, I should say, but it tells you on the side, it just says it's got a little, it tells you a bit about the taste on the side. I think it says you've got some chocolate, coffee and caramel flavours in there, a little bit of bitter and medium bitterness in there, but yeah, sounds really quite nice actually. Didn't tell you what the hops and malt profile were on this one, but it comes in at 5.8% and it's best before 1st of February 2016, so it should be a really quite nice one for us to have a look at. So without further ado, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting here. As you can see, nice kind of smoky opening on this one. You can actually smell a bit of fruity ester coming out of this beer as you just pop the top, but we'll see how we get on. The standard is some of the Danish beers I've tried so far for you, and the Swedish ones incidentally, have been really good, so I'm really enjoying this series of kind of Nordic beer reviews that I've been doing for you since I came to Lund. I need to get a hold of more Finnish and Norwegian ones, but the Danish and Swedish stuff is really nice actually. So as you can see, this beer is poured a definite, it's probably fair to describe this beer as a kind of rosewoody or mahogany, ebony colour. Probably ebony is the most representative of that, but as you can see, nice dark. If I hold it up to the light, it's got a little bit of a ruby tinge to the side, but otherwise it's completely black, completely ebony. There's a half finger of a frothy beigey coloured head on this, some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there, so it looks really quite a nice beer. So without further ado, we'll have a look at the aroma of this one. You can smell, well, this one, it's quite interesting. You can smell a good bit of roasted caramel in there, and it's a big bready stout actually, and you can get a bit of chocolatey sweetness out of it too. If you sugar it up a bit more, you can get the chocolatey sweetness out of it, but overall it does smell like a big bready stout, and you can get the toasted sort of roasted caramel out of here. Maybe there's some kind of red fruity ester coming out of this one also, like sort of maybe some candied fruit, not really figs or raisins or anything, but a sort of candied fruit aroma, but definitely a big and bready stout, a sort of big brown bready. It reminds me a lot of German rye bread actually, but you can definitely smell that in it. It smells big and bready, some nice slightly toasted caramel sweetness, and also like, yeah, a bit of maybe a slightly little bit of coffee, but a lot of chocolatey sweetness in there too. Big and bready, big and chocolatey, and a bit of toasted caramel, I think. Just a little bit of fruity esters. You can smell that as you open it up. There's a lot of fruity ester comes out of the beer. But yeah, maybe a little bit of a woody or a nutty note coming out of it as well, but mainly a big and bready beer, this one. You can smell a little bit of a smokiness coming out as well, I think, but that's very subtle. Most prominent components really are the bread, a little bit of the sweet caramel and a bit toasted as well, but quite a bit of chocolate and some candied fruit. So yeah, as I always say with your beers, give it a little smell before you try it, but this one is quite a simple one, a nice big bready stout. So without further ado, this is the Gavnø Organic Stout from Slotsbryggeriet Gavnø in Gavnø in Sjaelland, Denmark. Skål! That's quite interesting. It's really light and it's actually got a bit of tartness in the liquid, but then you get the typical stout flavours. It's really quite unusual actually. Yeah, so as I always say, just sugar the beer around your mouth and let your whole palate adjust to it, but there's a bit of an unusual character with this one because it comes in with a little bit of tart, fruity character, and then that immediately gives way to the typical elements that you would expect of the stout beer. So it's definitely an interesting one and one that tests your palate a little bit. So just have a little think about that when you drink this one. But what's interesting about it is it's nice and light and drinkable. Sometimes stouts can be really quite heavy beers, but this one is actually really quite light and very easy drinking. But yeah, well, this one, like I said, it comes in and you've got a definite red fruity ester in this one. It's a bit sharper than figs. Maybe it's kind of raisins and figs in there, a bit of candied fruit maybe, and around the edges of the tongue you'll feel this kind of wet, slightly tart berry juiciness, and that just gives way as the flavour of the beer progresses, and then the middle of your palate where the malt is coming out, that becomes gradually a bit more roasted and smoky. So Definitely a kind of very unusual beer in terms of the mouthfeel, but really quite interesting. I always enjoy beers that test your palate a little bit. But yeah, after that tart character kind of disappears in this beer, you get a nice big bready blanket that just goes over the middle of your tongue there. As I said, it reminds me a lot of German rye bread, but it's quite a light brown kind of, probably a well-fired bread is a good way to describe that. It reminds me of the Sunday rolls that we get at home, where they're well-fired, and that's just what the middle of your palate is like. A bready base, good bit of kind of coffee bitterness just sitting in there on top of that, and perhaps a bit of toasted caramel, and a little bit of chocolatey sweetness, but that comes out a bit more in the aftertaste actually, I think. Yeah. The chocolatey characteristics in this beer come out a little bit in the middle, then they fade, and you get more of that coffee roasted bitterness starting to punch its way through the flavour in this beer. I want to say as well, there's a little bit of a kind of woody or nutty infusion within the bread flavours in this beer. There's a good little bit of complexity to this beer, so do pay attention to that as you're drinking it. Yeah. There is a bit of hoppy character to this beer too, perhaps a little bit of grassiness around the front of the tongue, but that's very, very mild. The main component of the hops is at the back corners of the palate, and you've got a nice, smooth, earthy character coming out there, and it's actually really quite well done, I have to admit. The earthy character from the hops helps you build a good bridge between the more roasty, bitter coffee flavours. Those are just sitting just at the edge of the tongue before you get onto the hoppy side of the beer, but the earthy hops help build a good bridge between that and between the malt base and the hoppy characters in this beer. So really quite nice. The flavours blend together really quite well. As I said, the unusual thing about this beer is the fact that it comes in kind of like sort of fruity, if you like. That's the unusual thing about this beer, but then it quickly subsides and you get all of the things that you expect from a stout. So it's quite interesting that, and I'm not sure, but I think this might be the first organic stout beer that I've tried, and it definitely is interesting. It's a bit lighter and it's a bit more sessionable, so I'd happily drink this again. I'd be interested to try it on tap and see if it's just a little bit thicker, so maybe I'll go to the Slotsbryggeriet Gavnø and have a look at that sometime. But in terms of the mouthfeel of this beer, I think it's fair to say, light to mid-bodied. It's got quite a soft carbonation in it. As I said, it comes in with just a little bit of tartness. It's got quite a wet mouthfeel, this beer, so it is quite light and quite sessionable. There's a little bit of sweetness from the malt in the middle of the flavour, but then it becomes quite bitter on the finish, and that's the sort of coffee flavours coming out. It's a little bit smoky as well, it's probably fair to say that, and you can get a little bit of the hoppy character around the edge of the palate. But overall, it's definitely an interesting stout, and it will test your palate. So if you're a bit of an avid beer taster, kind of like me, then this is a good, interesting one to try. But if you just want to enjoy the beers, this is actually, and you enjoy the stout style, this one is a particularly good sessionable stout that you might want to have a go of. I'm not sure how widely available it is outside of Denmark. I've not seen it in Sweden before actually, so I really don't know about that, but I think it is quite widely available in supermarkets in Denmark, at least on Sjaelland. I think it's quite widely available. So if you do try this beer, let me know where you're trying it from. Always interesting to know that too. But I thank you for watching my beer videos. As always, let me know your own thoughts on the beer if you do happen to have tried it. Always interesting to hear from you guys. But thanks for watching my videos. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I hope you're enjoying this series of Nordic reviews that I'm doing for you. As I said, Danes, please let me know some other reviews that are other beers that I can have a look at and do reviews for you. Until my next beer review, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. There's a lot of Swedish videos going to come up over the next little while, but I hope you're enjoying them, and I will catch you soon with my next beer review, and feel free to get in touch. Slange just now.